For generations, we were taught that reaching a six-figure salary was the ultimate financial finish line. We believed that once you signed a contract with $100,000 a year printed on it, you had officially made it. You would get the house with the yard, the nice car, and the peace of mind that comes with knowing your bills are always paid. But if you talk to professionals in America right now, you will hear a very different story. Over half of Americans making over $100,000 a year say they are living paycheck to paycheck. In some of the country's biggest cities, that six-figure milestone feels like the bare minimum just to survive. I spent the first 25 years of my life in the United States chasing that exact goal. But then I moved to Germany. I have been living here for about 6 years now, and the contrast has completely shifted how I view my own home country. In Germany, if you earn 70,000 euros a year, you are considered highly successful. You live in a beautiful apartment, you travel, you save money, and you never worry about going bankrupt over a broken leg. In America, you can make twice that amount and still lay awake at night wondering how you will pay for your child's daycare next month. How did we get to a point where one of the wealthiest countries in the world makes high earners feel like they are just one bad week away from financial ruin? Let's look at the actual data and break down why America has become so unbelievably expensive, even when your salary looks massive on paper. To understand this, we have to start with the concept of the phantom paycheck. When you tell a European that you make $100,000 in the United States, their eyes light up. They assume you are rich because in Western Europe, a gross salary of 90,000 euros is executive level money. But what people outside the United States do not realize is the massive chasm between your gross salary and your actual take-home pay. In America, your paycheck is sliced and diced before it ever touches your bank account. First, you have federal income tax, state income tax, and sometimes even city income tax. If you live in a place like San Francisco or New York, you are looking at a combined tax rate that easily eats up 30% of your earnings. Then comes FICA, which takes another 7.65% for Social Security and Medicare. But the real silent killer is what I call the private taxes. In Germany, my healthcare, pension, and unemployment insurance are automatically covered by my standard taxes. In the United States, those are private expenses deducted from your gross pay. You have health insurance premiums, dental insurance, vision insurance, and your contributions to a retirement account like a $401,000. By the time all of these deductions are finished, your $100,000 salary has shrunk to around $62,000 in actual take-home pay. That is about $5,000 a month. When you start with $5,000 a month in a major metropolitan area, the math becomes incredibly tight. You are not buying yachts or designer clothes. You are simply trying to cover the basic cost of existing, and the system is designed to extract every single dollar you make. Quick thing before we get into the worst of these silent budget killers. The data on this channel shows that over 80% of you watching right now are actually not subscribed. That means you are showing up for the stories, but the algorithm has no reason to show you the next video. Hit subscribe so you do not miss the next one. Now let's talk about the single biggest expense that is keeping high earners broke. Housing. Over the last few years, the American housing market has turned into an absolute prison. It does not matter if you rent or own, you are paying a premium that would shock most Europeans. If you choose to rent, you are looking at average prices of $2,500 to $3,500 a month for a basic two-bedroom apartment in a decent school district. In places like New York City, 30% of households are spending over 50% of their income just on rent. That means half of your take-home pay is gone on the first of the month, leaving you with very little room for anything else. But let's say you want to buy a house. You want to achieve that classic American dream. To buy an average home in a major metro area today, you are looking at prices well over $500,000. With mortgage interest rates hovering at high levels, your monthly payment is astronomical. And the expenses do not stop at the mortgage. In America, property taxes are incredibly high compared to other developed nations. If you buy a modest home in New Jersey, Texas, or Illinois, you could easily pay $8,000 to $12,000 a year just in property taxes. That is an extra $1,000 a month paid to the government just for the privilege of owning land. On top of that, we are seeing an unprecedented crisis in homeowners insurance. Due to climate disasters and corporate restructuring, insurance premiums have tripled in states like Florida, California, and Texas. Many companies are refusing to write policies altogether, forcing homeowners into state-backed plans that cost a fortune. If you are renting, do not think you are safe from this. Landlords simply pass these rising insurance and tax costs directly down to you in the form of rent increases. This brings us to the next massive systemic difference, which is the healthcare toll booth. In Germany, if I get sick, I go to the doctor. I show my card, I get treated, and I leave. The concept of a medical bill does not exist in my daily life. In America, even if you have a great corporate job with supposedly excellent health insurance, you are constantly playing a high-stakes game of financial roulette. First, you pay your monthly premium, which is often several $100s. But that premium does not actually cover your medical care. It simply gives you the right to enter the system. When you actually go to the doctor, you have to deal with deductibles. A typical deductible for an individual is $3,000, and for a family, it can easily be $6,000. That means you have to pay thousands of dollars out of your own pocket for medical care before your insurance company pays a single cent. Once you meet your deductible, you still have copays and coinsurance. You have to pay 20% of the bill, and the insurance covers 80%. If you have a baby, even with good insurance, you can easily end up with a bill for $5,000 to $10,000 for a normal delivery. If you have a major medical emergency, you could be facing tens of thousands of dollars in debt. This creates a constant background hum of anxiety. High earners in America live with the knowledge that a single cancer diagnosis or a bad car accident could completely wipe out their savings, despite their six-figure salaries. They are forced to hoard cash in high-yield savings accounts just to protect themselves from their own healthcare system, rather than investing that money or using it to enjoy their lives. Also, this is exactly the kind of thing I go much deeper on with the people who support this channel directly. So if you're sitting there thinking, okay, I need the fuller version of this story, join the membership below. That's where I share the deeper thoughts, the more personal side of all this, and the extra bits I can't always fit into the main videos. If you have children in America, the financial pressure reaches an entirely different level. The cost of childcare in the United States is nothing short of a national crisis. In most major cities, infant daycare costs between $1,500 and $2,500 a month per child. That is more than the cost of in-state college tuition in many states. If you have 2 young children, you are looking at $4,000 a month just so you and your partner can go to work. For a family earning $100,000, childcare can easily consume nearly their entire take-home pay. Many parents are forced to make a painful calculation. Does it even make financial sense for both of us to work? Or should one of us stay home and sacrifice our career progression? In Germany, kindergarten is highly subsidized, and in many regions, it is completely free. The government also pays you a monthly allowance of 250 euros per child, called Kindergeld, to help cover basic expenses. In America, you are entirely on your own, and the financial demands of parenting do not stop when your kids grow up. If you want your children to have a shot at those high-paying six-figure jobs, they need a college education. The cost of higher education in America has risen at a rate that defies logic. A 4-year degree at a private university can easily cost over $80,000 a year. Even in-state public universities cost around $25,000 a year when you factor in housing and food. Many parents who make good salaries are still paying off their own student loans well into their 40s. While simultaneously trying to save hundreds of thousands of dollars for their children's education. This means a massive portion of a high earner's salary is spoken for before they even receive it. They are paying off the debt of their past while desperately trying to fund the future of their children, leaving very little for the present. To make matters worse, America's infrastructure forces another massive, mandatory expense on almost every household, the car tax. When I moved to Germany, one of the biggest reliefs was realizing I did not need a car. I bought a monthly train ticket for 49 euros and I can travel across the entire country. I walk to the grocery store, I take the subway to work, and my daily commute is completely stress-free. In 95% of the United States, public transportation is either non-existent or completely unreliable. This means owning a car is not a lifestyle choice. It is a mandatory infrastructure tax. If you are a working couple, you usually need 2 cars. The cost of car ownership today is staggering. The average monthly payment for a new car in America is over $700, and even for a used car, it is over $500. Once you add in car insurance, which has skyrocketed recently, gas, and maintenance, you are easily looking at $1,000 a month per vehicle. If your household has 2 cars, you are spending $24,000 a year just to have the physical ability to get to your job, buy groceries, and drop your kids off at school. This is a massive financial drain that Europeans simply do not have to think about. That $1,000 a month that an American spends on car payments, insurance, and gas is money that a European can put directly into savings, travel, or high-quality food. It is a silent budget killer that Americans accept as normal because they have never known anything else. And if you are loving this breakdown and want to see more content like this, please hype up this video by hitting the like button and dropping a comment below. It really shows the support and love, and it helps push this to more people who are wondering where all their money is going. Now, let's look at the daily psychological drain of consumer culture in the United States. The endless stream of fees, tips, and convenience costs. When you walk into a grocery store in Germany, the price you see on the shelf is the exact price you pay at the register. The sales tax is already included, and tipping is entirely optional and reserved for exceptional service. In America, every transaction is a psychological battle. The price on the shelf is a lie. You have to mentally add state and local sales tax to everything you buy. When you go out to eat, you are met with a tipping culture that has spiraled completely out of control. It used to be that 15% was standard for sit-down service. Now, digital payment screens at bakery counters, coffee shops, and even self-service kiosks default to 18, 20, or 25% tips. You are constantly put in the uncomfortable position of having to click no in front of a worker who is underpaid, because corporations have successfully shifted the responsibility of paying their staff directly onto the consumer. Then you have convenience fees. If you want to buy a concert ticket, you are hit with a service fee, a processing fee, and a facility charge that can add 40% to the ticket price. If you order food through an app, you pay a delivery fee, a service fee, a heavy demand fee, and a tip for the driver. Every single interaction in the American economy feels like it is designed to nickel and dime you. It is a death by 1,000 cuts. Individually, these fees do not seem like much, but over the course of a year, they add up to thousands of dollars of friction in your budget. This constant pressure creates a lifestyle where even high earners feel like they are running on a hamster wheel. They are earning more money than ever before, but the cost of everyday convenience is rising faster than their wages. And that brings us to the inevitable counter-arguments. Whenever you point out how expensive America has become, people will say, "But American houses are so much bigger, and consumer goods are so much cheaper. You can buy a massive television for $300, and gasoline is half the price of what it is in Europe." While that is technically true, it is a complete misunderstanding of what actually drives quality of life. Yes, you can buy a massive flat-screen television for cheap in America, but a cheap television does not make up for the fact that you cannot afford to go to the emergency room. A cheap television does not pay for your $3,000 a month daycare bill. We have traded affordable, basic human needs for cheap consumer electronics. We have built a society where the things that actually matter for long-term stability, healthcare, education, housing, and childcare, are treated as luxury commodities, while the things that distract us, fast fashion, cheap electronics, and massive cars, are incredibly cheap. Another common argument is, well, if you cannot afford to live in New York or San Francisco, just move to a cheaper state. Move to the Midwest or the South. But this is a massive trap. First of all, the high-paying jobs are concentrated in those expensive metropolitan areas. If you move to a small town in Ohio to get cheap rent, your salary will likely drop significantly. Furthermore, the cost of living crisis is no longer confined to the coasts. Mid-sized cities across the American South and West, cities like Austin, Phoenix, Tampa, and Boise, have seen housing prices double over the last few years. The local wages in those cities have not kept pace with the influx of remote workers and corporate investors buying up starter homes. And let's not forget the hidden costs of moving to those cheaper areas. In many low-tax states, the public schools are severely underfunded, forcing parents to pay for private school if they want their kids to get a competitive education. The public infrastructure is often poor, meaning you are driving longer distances on worse roads, increasing your car maintenance costs. You are simply trading one set of expenses for another. It is the illusion of choice. The system is designed so that no matter where you go, the basic cost of maintaining a middle-class lifestyle will rise to meet whatever salary you are making. When you step back and look at the big picture, you realize that the American definition of freedom is very different from the European one. In America, freedom is defined as the opportunity to earn an unlimited amount of money. You are free to rise as high as you can, but you are also free to fall as hard as you can. The safety net is virtually non-existent. In Europe, and specifically in Germany, freedom is defined as the freedom from anxiety. It is the freedom of knowing that if you lose your job, you will not lose your home. It is the freedom of knowing that your children will get a world-class education regardless of your bank account balance. It is the security of knowing that you will never have to choose between paying for medical treatment or paying your mortgage. This is why high salaries in America do not translate to a sense of wealth. When you earn $150,000 in the United States, you are not actually buying luxury, you are buying security. You are paying for private health insurance, private childcare, private schooling, and private retirement savings because you know the state will not help you if things go wrong. You are essentially funding your own private social safety net. In Germany, I pay higher taxes, but those taxes buy me a public safety net that is incredibly robust. I do not have to worry about the future because the baseline of society is incredibly stable. This is the great paradox of modern American life. We are earning more money than almost any other population in human history, yet we feel poorer and more stressed than ever before. We are working longer hours, taking fewer vacations, and constantly worrying about the future, all while chasing a six-figure number that no longer buys the security it once promised. Perhaps it is time to redefine what it actually means to be wealthy. It is not about the number on your paycheck. It is about what that paycheck actually buys you in terms of time, peace of mind, and security. Until we fix the systemic issues in healthcare, housing, and childcare, America will continue to feel incredibly expensive no matter how high the salaries go.